Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. As you've no doubt heard by now, Pope Benedict XVI has passed away. He died on New Year's Eve. And so while the Church is still celebrating the joy of the Christmas season, she also is mourning the loss of a spiritual father. Pope Benedict had and has a big effect in my own priesthood. His intelligence, his scholarliness, his devotion to the liturgy and the sacraments and their reverent celebration, those have had and continues to have a strong impact and influence on my own priesthood. But there are a couple of memories of him that I just wanted to share. I did have a chance to see him in person, 2005, only a couple of months after he was elected. I was on pilgrimage with my classmates. We were going through Europe, and my classmates at the seminary. And we had a chance to go to the Wednesday audience. And he was driven by us in his Pope mobile, and we didn't get a chance to really get up close to him. But to see him only a couple hundred feet away or so, not far from us, it was close enough to see him, and that was pretty special to be there. Of course, I am forever grateful for his motu proprio, Summorum Pontificum, which allowed for greater freedom to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass. I did a video on a few months ago on the 15th anniversary of Summorum Pontificum, which you can watch by clicking up here somewhere. But all of us who have a love for the traditional Latin Mass, we are, as I said, forever grateful for what he did for the Mass, and especially for allowing for greater celebration of the traditional Latin Mass. He also identified the problem of the times, giving it a word, relativism. This whole idea that, well, you have your truth and I have my truth, and let's just agree to disagree, as if truth was whatever I want it to be, and how dare you criticize my truth. And he called it the dictatorship of relativism, right? And so a lot of the problems that we have today with wokeism and all that, Pope Benedict, really talked a lot about that during his papacy. And for us as seminarians, that helped us to have a word and just a way to identify the problem and argue against it. But lastly, I'll always remember the day that Pope Benedict was elected. St. John Paul II died on April the 2nd, 2005, and it wasn't until April 19, I think I have that date right, but April 19, when Pope Benedict was elected. So there was this interregnum period, this time between the reigns of two popes, when we were waiting for the election of a new pope. And like many of you, I'm sure, we were all watching TV, watching the news. We were there at the seminary watching every time they said that there was a vote, to see if white smoke would appear from the roof of the Sistine Chapel. Well, one day we were at Mass. We were in the chapel of the graduate house, and down the hall from the chapel, which was on the lower level of the graduate house, down the hall was the TV lounge. Well, daily Mass at the time was 11:15 or 11:30 in the morning. I can't remember the exact time. But as soon as Mass was over, someone went into the TV lounge, turned on the TV, and word quickly spread that there was white smoke, that they had elected a new pope. And so, instead of going to lunch, which is where most of us would normally have gone after Mass, we all crowded into the TV lounge. And I don't remember how long we were there, but no one was concerned about their schedule for the rest of the day. You know, if no, I don't think anyone would have cared if we would have missed class or anything like that, because we were all watching the TV. But we were waiting for the announcement. We were all waiting for someone to come out and make the announcement. And so after a while, a cardinal came out onto the loggia, the balcony above St. Peter's Square, and he made the announcement in Latin.
Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. Habemus papam.
Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum, habemus papam. I announce to you a great joy. We have a pope. And then he says the name in Latin,
Josephum.
Josephum. Now, it was known that Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger was certainly a very realistic candidate to be elected pope. And so after he says Josephum, we're all kind of looking at each other, maybe, could it be? And then he says,
Cardinalem Ratzinger.
Cardinalem Ratzinger. And when he said Ratzinger, the whole TV lounge just exploded with joy. People were screaming. There was a lot of fist pumping. And I just remember looking around and just seeing the joy in all my friends, the priests and the professors that were there, just the absolute joy in hearing the name Joseph Ratzinger. And it was a great time in the church. He was only pope for about 8 years or so, and but it was a great time in the church. He's known to say, there's a quote that he's known to say, the world offers you comfort, but you weren't made for comfort, you were made for greatness. But I really like how he says it in his encyclical Spe Salvi, Saved in Hope, where he says, and I have to read it, man was created for greatness, for God himself. He was created to be filled by God, but his heart is too small for the greatness to which it is destined. It must be stretched. And what I like about that quote is that he specifies what greatness is, God himself, right? So you ask 100 people what greatness is, and they might come up with 100 different answers. But Pope Benedict was very clear that greatness is God himself. And that is what we were made for. We were made for God himself. And apart from God, we cannot be great, both as individuals and as a nation and as a world. Apart from God, we cannot be great. And so, if you haven't read anything of Pope Benedict's, I would certainly encourage you to. He has a ton of books, and they're just filled with the wisdom of the church, and he's such a great teacher. He's really a teacher at heart, and he's certainly it's certainly a sad time, a time of mourning for the church. because he truly was a spiritual father for a lot of people.
Qui sibi nomen imposuit Benedicti XVI.
How about you? Do you have any of your own memories of Pope Benedict? Do you remember where you were, what you experienced when Pope Benedict was elected back in 2005? Leave some comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless you.